Welcome into another edition of Huber and Friends. I'm Jeremy Huber, and lucky enough to be joined by one of my really good friends from a long way back, Brian Jenkins. You might know him as Monk. He's the guy behind Monk's Barbecue, a host of other businesses in the Loudoun County, Northern Virginia area, also spreading his wings down to North Carolina. We'll get into all of it. Brian, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
You're welcome. Good morning.
And I hope it's a good morning to you. You down in North Carolina right now?
Oh yeah, I'm on my third cup of coffee, tying up some fishing rigs, getting ready for the day. Happy to come on and chat with you. It's been a minute since we've talked, so we really love the opportunity to talk with you.
Well, thanks for doing it, man. I really appreciate it. And I start all these off. There's only been two, but they've been good so far, and it seemingly worked this way. Do you remember how we met?
How we met? Oh God, well, it had to have been a very long time ago. I mean, I saw you. Well, okay. I remember. I don't know if this counts as a meeting, but I remember pitching to you in Little League Baseball, and you went up there, and I think you said something like to your team, like, "Hey, he can't throw it over the plate, so just go up there and stand, and he'll walk you around the bases." And sure enough, you were right. So, but you were kind of, you had a small strike zone. You're kind of short, and I always have trouble with the shorter guys. Not a slight to you, but it's that strike zone on you was tiny.
I think we knew of each other through sports and those things. I think the first time we actually met, one of your business partners, Peter Thomas, had a band. I think you were kind of leaving it. I was kind of coming into it. So that's how we first became friends, and quickly we're fast friends.
Was
And
that
I
our
always
official first meeting?
I think it was the first time we actually kind of chatted on a long-term basis, because we're a grade apart and went to the same high school. I believe went to the same elementary schools at the same time. So we
Yeah.
kind of didn't really we knew of each other, but didn't really become friends to that 15-year-old group. Now, you mentioned the monkey pitching story. That was, of course, what we used to call you before you graduated to Monk. But
Yeah,
I thought
the
of a
grown-up
couple
version.
things that were interesting back then. You told part of that story. When you were pitching, though, and some people didn't heed my advice, some very good batters on our high school baseball team that you were striking out.
Oh
Then a
yeah.
couple years later, also playing for Peter's father, Larry, in a rec league basketball game, you kind of dominated the league that year. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking to myself, what's really interesting about Brian is he has this kind of talent of kind of working on something until he can get it right, and almost saying, look, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to beat you at this. Do you feel like back in the day a little bit you had that kind of chip on your shoulder, that it was like, look, I know I can figure out a way to get these guys?
Yeah, it's well, so I have to be kind of careful about what I get into because I really deep dive into a lot of research and all that. When I was younger, say in high school, I'm not sure I had that drive, especially when I started to discover booze and things like that in high school. So priorities became a little bit mixed up. But um, it was kind of tough. Basketball. I tried out for basketball and baseball and all that stuff, and seeing some guys that I knew I could outplay and have for a while, making teams and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't. And I was like, well, the hell with it, screw it, It I think, and I don't want to sound like Al Bundy here or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if I had applied myself a little bit more, um, I probably could have been all right at some of these things. I think you also forget at my prowess at floor hockey in gym class as a goalie. So it's always had that quick twitch, reaction reflex time. Also, when we played softball as a pitcher, being able to field that position and all that stuff. And when they're hitting 150-mile rockets back at your face, being able to react and catch, and play those balls. But yeah, I think as I got older, Huber, I think it I was able to kind of harness that energy and stay
Mm-hmm.
focused on a task, where in my younger years I didn't have that. It was like, oh, I didn't, make the team this year, screw you, I'm gonna go do something else. If I had really put my mind to something, I could have done it, developed myself. Helps to have good coaching along the way and all that stuff too. I was stuck on some really awful little league teams. The good God, the Senators one year, we won 2 games in 3 years. And it was tough. It was really tough being the two best players on the team, me and another guy, and we were the pitcher and the catcher because the rest of the team was so dysfunctional. If you put anybody else at either of those positions, it would have been awful. But yeah, man, I think as I moved through the years, I was able to kind of harness that energy and drive and put it into good use for myself. I was a late bloomer for sure.
That's actually one thing I kind of wanted to mention. You went to James Madison your last 2 years of college and really thrived and excelled down there in their business program. But I remember there were 2 years of you at community college. And I remember kind of us talking about this a little bit. Was there a motivational aspect with that where you're kind of looking around and saying, okay, look, whatever my goals are in life, I'm going to have to maybe pick it up a little bit to get to those?
Yeah. Yeah, thank God I had that epiphany, that moment. I worked in a local pharmacy, um, and everybody, all the managers and things like that, they didn't look happy. They were in their 40s and they were kind of struggling through life, and they were a little odd and all that. And I'm like, huh, I don't. I'm 18 years old. All of my friends just went to college. I have been literally farting around for 4 years. I need to try to apply myself to something. And I think that's a moment where it kind of clicked for me. I think some people have that later in life. Some people have that earlier in life. It's never really too late. But I decided to enroll in community college, which was awesome. And for any kids out there, I employ a lot of kids. I tell them that is a good avenue. It's really
Mhm.
difficult to get into college now, right out of high school. I mean, you have to have stellar grades, community service work, all that. If you do 2 years at Nova and come out of there with some good grades, I mean, I got into Virginia Tech and JMU. Should have applied to UVA. Probably would have gotten it. They just want to see that you completed a 2-year program,
Mhm.
and I mean, literally, Nova was showing up. It's easy. It's just show up and you'll do fine. But yeah, that moment at the pharmacy clicked. A couple moments along the way as I was, that was a long 2 years. Going to visit my friends in college. Seeing how good of a time they were having. Meanwhile I was working. I was working a difficult job. My I guess second year of college, I worked for a home care equipment place.
Mhm.
I would deliver hospital beds and oxygen equipment and things like that to people on hospice. So I got to talk to a lot of people, that provided me perspective within conversations that I wouldn't have otherwise have had it as a 19-year-old.
Sure.
Important conversations. But man, I was the company had acquired another company down in Richmond, and what came with that was a new delivery van that they gave me. And I was driving that thing, and I looked down one day, and it's not the driver's seat isn't bolted to the floor. It's actually held in by bungee cords. I was going around the Leesburg bypass and Sycolin Road, which used to, now there's a bridge or whatever there, but used to be a very dangerous stoplight. I was going through that, man, and the car just shut down and the transmission fluid went all over the middle of the intersection, and that car was dead in the water. And I was probably 3 miles from the office, and the owner of the company um, was at the intersection at the stoplight, and we made eye contact, and I'm getting out of the van. It was like probably 100-degree heat index day. And he looked at me and then turned his head back straight and drove away and didn't give me a ride back to the office or anything like that. And I'm like, oh my God, like I have to get out of this. This is terrible, So I walked 3 miles in the summer heat on the blacktop, sweating my butt off, all the way back, and then, quit, and it was time to move on. And yeah, and then went to JMU, my junior and senior year. Was delighted to get those acceptance letters into colleges and things like that. And I was catching up to my counterparts, and got there and continued to work hard, where some people were partying, late at night, blah, blah, blah,
Sure.
seven nights a week. I decided to make it Monday through Thursday. I'm up till 3 a.m., studying and all that stuff. Because I was never gifted like intelligence. What I
Mhm.
have is drive, and I
Yep.
earn what I, it's not easy. It's but you can do whatever you need to do. You just, I think Grant Paulson, I was listening to your interview with him. He's talking about the grind of what it was to make it in radio, and talking with you, I know it's a grind too. It's difficult. I have a lot of friends that are in the radio business, and it's not easy. And you have to have that drive and that instinct to keep, to keep going and put the work in.
You mentioned one thing quickly that you were talking about it's never too late. I remember going over your house. I believe we were in high school and there was a room and there was a bunch of computer equipment there. And I said, "What's this?" And he goes, "Well, my dad's getting a certificate in fixing computers, right?" And he'd worked for VDOT forever and he had gone through and been a loyal employee to them. Was there a little bit of that when you were younger that kind of put that in your mind? Like, hey, my dad was able to kind of switch on a dime and do something different after a while. If I ever feel like I want to change in life, is that something I can do? Did you feel a little bit better about that your dad had done it?
Yeah, he was a great mentor and example for me. Humble, like very humble, but very smart. And back then when they're growing up, and my grandmother was the same way, extremely smart. But opportunity wasn't there
Sure.
like it is today. To go to college, to get student loans, no matter what your financial position is in your family, you can go, you can get money, you can go do what it is that you want to do. Um, so he was, high school educated, worked for VDOT, like you said, for 30 years, got a retirement plan, decided to switch up and do something else because it was boring and it's whatever. And yeah, it's a great example. I kind of feel like that's where I am right now, a little bit. Um, but he was a great example. It was really cool. He also had I remember that was AOL days, the 56K dial up. So
Hmm.
he was into all that. So I'd go in and use all the equipment and download all the Napster, songs and all that stuff. I had quite the CD collection then. Um, but yeah, he was both of my parents, great examples. My conscience comes from my mother. My will to be fair in all situations comes from there, and my drive and ability to adapt, I think, comes from my father. So yeah, I was very blessed that way to have such good examples.
Brian, you mentioned your time at James Madison, and I think that's the time where this passion for cooking that would serve you very well with Monk's Barbecue came about. Kind of talk about where did that passion for cooking come from, and was it nice to be doing that at a young age where you had friends like me who are always willing to get a free meal where you could test some of
Yeah.
these things out that you were doing?
Yeah, that was so we had a little teeny like grill and smoker in the front postage stamp yard that we had in our townhouse there in college. And it honestly, the what drives me is my stomach. I love to eat. I've never been a skinny guy. I my belly drives my brain with some of that, and I like to research recipes, and so going on Google, just finding different things to try, different methods, different cooking methods. I graduated from that little smoker to an electric smoker. It's Bradley. It has little pucks and it kicks them in. I found that out through my research, and it was
Mhm.
affordable for a college kid. It's like $150. Um, so he started cooking ribs and brisket and pork butt and all that stuff. And that barbecue's great for like young college kids. You can stay up. You got to stay up till like 4 in the morning, and you
Yep.
can you can have beers while you're doing it and all that stuff. But you can kind of set it and forget it to a degree, and then when it's ready, it's just some of the best stuff that you can eat. It's it's awesome. You can make tacos, pulled pork, all of it. Like it was awesome. Those were great times in college and developing all that. I still use some of the recipes that I developed, back then, in my business. So it's yeah, that was a great time, and that's definitely where it started, in college and having friends come over and trying different things.
It's funny though, and I think you've kind of pointed this out to me over the years. Being a successful restaurateur isn't just about what you can cook; it's about the business, the marketing part of it.
Shoot.
Obviously, you got a great foundation at James Madison, but then you went and worked for and make sure I get the name right, the Loudon Convention and Visitors Center for I believe a good 10 years there. What did you learn in that job that you were able to kind of take when you started your business? From that experience there and maybe learning about Loudoun County and maybe what people liked and didn't like?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, growing up in an area and staying there, well, that helps a lot, right? You have a lot of relationships, you know a lot about the area, all that. And I put out of college a lot of resumes. Um, this place was less than a mile from my house. I think it paid $26,000 a year. And I was in there like mailing brochures and things like that. It was called Loudon Convention and Visitors Association back then. It's now known as Visit Loudon. They've
Got
shortened it to something that sounds a little less cumbersome, but it's the tourism kind of arm of Loudon County. So it's trying to get people to come visit the wine country there in Western Loudon, the breweries that we have now, the historic sites, and there's some really interesting little historic sites around the county. Um, with Balls Bluff, and I mean, just tons of little awesome stories with John Mosby and all sorts of stuff. I'd highly suggest anybody that doesn't know that heritage of the county, or anybody interested, to research it a little bit. There's some cool things you can go visit. But I worked my way up into like I had a marketing degree, business marketing, and it that played well because you're marketing to tourists and things like that. I had a kind of an all-purpose job as I moved up, in there. I was marketing coordinator, then director of marketing, and then director of research. And it it was an interesting atmosphere. It's like a small business in that you do wear a lot of different hats. It's not like a big corporation where you are siloed into just doing one thing all the time. I was also the IT guy because everybody there was significantly older than me. So I could use Excel and do things like that. And they're like, oh my gosh, they just thought I was an IT guy, which like I'm not, but okay. Through the years though, I got to know basically everybody at the wineries, everybody at the breweries, the historic sites, all the attractions, all that stuff. And man, did that play well. When I started my business, and it just having those relationships, places to go sell barbecue on the weekends where there's going to be people there. That really helped. And if I was in an area where I didn't know a lot of people, it would have been significantly harder to get that off the ground. But I remember, it's kind of a government job. It's an arm of Loudoun County, and in those jobs, they don't pay all that well. Good benefits, flexibility is pretty good in the job and all that, but the pay's just not there. And we had 2 kids, somewhat newly married, and trying to buy a house in Loudoun County and do all that. It's hard, even with 2 incomes. So I remember talking with my wife, in bed one night and running some numbers. And I'm like, I think I could do this. I think I could start, a barbecue like truck, and let's do it on the weekends and provide some side income. And so we did. And it was, I mean, our first, I think it was $6,000 that we started it with. And our first investment was our smoker, which was $5,000, a tent, some tables, and the first week's ingredients. And that's all we started it on, and it was discouraging sometimes, where the weather, it would rain or whatever, and you'd be depressed and like, oh my gosh, I lost my ass on this week. And because we were just on the weekends, if that happened and we had a lot of leftover food, well, you can't wait till the next weekend to sell it. It's spoiled, you can't make tacos out of it or whatever. It's gone, because you're not open for the next 5 days. But then there were some moments in there, man, where people would come up and just be like, that was the best, barbecue I've ever had, and that really fills you up. That really makes it worth it for you. And then when I started to have some success and some notoriety, I was in the Washington Post a few times as that little food truck on the weekends. And as I started to have some of that, like I remember making my like first $1,000 on a Saturday, and I was driving home and I took the long route and I was listening to some music. I'm pumping my fist. I was really, really, really motivated to keep it going. And, meanwhile, my wife is 9 months pregnant, working the cash register. I had a couple friends helping me along the way, and that's what it was. It was very small. We would take the winters off. So Thanksgiving would be my last day. And we would come back at the following April. And some of the spots I would set up in, they would see our barbecue truck wasn't there over the weekend, and they would just turn around and leave. So they wouldn't visit the brewery, they wouldn't visit the winery, they would just leave, you know. So that's why I started to figure out that we were doing something right, that we had, you know, we had something going, we had a little juice, you know. Let's see this through. And a barbecue restaurant, a failed one, opened or moved out in Percival, and I went to look at it and decided to give it a go, you know. And so with all this, I feel like I'm kind of glossing over this a little bit, but one of the biggest challenges, man, was working 7 days a week. And at my other job, they were very supportive. I would use my lunch break to go buy all my ingredients for the weekend, right? And I mean, this filled a lot of my time, and a little bit of family neglect in between. I have kids that have soccer and things like that, and it was tough to get out to games because I'd be setting up and selling, and it was really stressful. And I'm worried about the weekend. I'm worried about having all this stuff prepared and everything. And then when I started the brick and mortar, I was still doing two jobs, and that went on for about 3 years before the barbecue passion kind of took over, and I was financially able to give up the other job. And for anybody thinking about doing it, it's a leap of faith. It is you have to make a lot of sacrifices. I am now on blood pressure medication. I'm diabetic and I have high cholesterol. So it wears on you, man, like the stress and all that. Like I would have some panic attacks and things, and now I'm kind of like, you know, after 13 years of doing it and everything's routine, I'm kind of on the other side of it. We've grown our business to a point where we're seeing, like, you know, it's not 60% increases year over year. It's single digits, you know, increase or decrease. We've kind of leveled it out, you know. I kind of know the whole universe, and now I'm on the other side of it, you know, just kind of having a good time, you know, and that stress is gone, and I'm working on my health and all that. And yeah, it's been an awesome ride. But yeah, through COVID, all of it, man. Like we're glossing over 10 years worth of stuff, but it's been a very rewarding experience.
There's a picture of you out at the brick and mortar. One thing I wanted to ask you, Brian, and we had talked about this before, but unlike some restaurateurs, you had that business and marketing background. Do you think that was super important for you to kind of, you know, as much as you could, hit the ground running, of knowing, hey, here's some pitfalls that may come along that I want to make sure I don't drive myself into?
Yeah. It's the marketing's easy because social media was around. There was very little kind of like, I wasn't going to be able to afford ads in the Washington Post, you know, like I wasn't going to be able to commercial spots, all that stuff, you know. But social media was getting going. That was really valuable with the advent of that. A lot of free advertising, a lot of great word of mouth. But really the financial management of it is where a lot of people go wrong in restaurant. It's I see a lot of places are underpriced, and to a consumer, they're like, you know, that's a great deal, you know. In reality, if the business owner isn't following proper, if they don't have enough markup, you know, at the end of the day, they're working for free, and then they end up fizzling out and going out of business. You know, I see that a lot. And that's as simple as, you know, if something costs me $1, I need to sell it for $3.30, you know. And you just apply that formula to everything, even if you have a bar, your liquor, your beer, you know, all that stuff. You end up making enough to survive, you know. It pays for your rent and your electric. It's all factored in. But there are a lot of people that just don't even have that base of knowledge. What are your profit margins? What are your costs? And they get into it and they end up working very hard, very stressed, and they end up folding it up, you know. And it happens a lot. And it's especially trying now with, you know, all the inflation. I'm not going to go political or anything, but all the inflation, and the food is one of those things that's really risen in price.
Sure.
And so you gotta ride the wave, and, you know, stay true to your pricing formulas, or you're going to get into trouble. So it's I mean, that business experience 100% helped. Man, I'll tell you though, the thing that is the most difficult and I would imagine this is not just restaurants, this is with everything. If you're an owner of a business and you're a naturally friendly person and you like people and you like conversing with them and getting to know people, the hardest thing is drawing a line on friendships. A mistake that almost every business owner, I think, has to learn. Once you become really good friends with your staff, it makes it really difficult to enforce,
Hmm.
disciplinary actions. And then the more they get to know you, the more, oh, Brian's cool, you know what I mean? It's all good, he won't care. And so you kind of get that thing where you've got to have a pretty good backbone to be able to sit down with somebody that you know very well and give them some bad news, whether that's, hey, I'm observing this, I need you to do this, or you're fired, if you've
Yep.
had that
Yep.
conversation too many times. um I'm now used to it, but that is a extremely hard thing for a lot of people to
Yep.
do, and some people never learn the lesson. And I have business partners in various things that are going through those lessons now, and no matter how much guidance I provide and experience, because I've been there, they still have to learn it for themselves, because they're nice people, inherently friendly, nice people. Most of us are, and that's just something that happens. So that is the hardest thing of business ownership for me.
It's actually funny. You it must be your radio background, which we're going to get into in a second, but you kind of made me think of the movie Moneyball, where Billy Bean at one point, played by Brad Pitt, is sitting there and he doesn't watch the games, and they say, "Why don't you watch the games?" Like, well, I'm worried about like the people and the stats. I'm not worried about it because if I get too close, I won't be able to cut somebody when I need to. I won't be able to trade somebody when I need to. So that's a
Yeah.
pretty excellent salient point there. The other thing I thought, though, when I think about you and your businesses with Moneyball, that thing was about kind of exploiting market inefficiencies. And I feel like throughout me following you, you've always been able to kind of look at something and go, okay, look, this is a need that I can cater to. I think that was big where you started your ice cream business above your shop, Tip Cow Creamery above amongst barbecue. And I
Yeah.
believe it was kind of a combo from what you had told me before, where it was, hey, there's some ice cream shops that have been in Percival. They're not here anymore. But also, we kind of have these folks captive. They're here already. Kind of talk about the thinking behind opening up an ice cream shop and the work that went into it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, market capitalizing on an underserved market is really something you should look at. Like, no matter what your business is, when you're wanting to enter that competitive space, um, ice cream. Like, I have no desire to start another full on 60 employee barbecue restaurant. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot, And I'm looking at, like, okay, I could put one in Winchester, I could put one in Arlington, I could do that. Well, I'm going to be running around crazy all over the place. So I'm like, I started thinking, okay, what are some complementary things that I can be doing, you know, with this barbecue restaurant? And I'm like, well, we serve a great banana pudding and stuff like that as a dessert. And I'm like, well, we don't really have a big dessert kind of experience, and this space was open upstairs. And I'm like, well, what are some foods that people will travel for? Because they'll travel for barbecue. I figured that out. I mean, they're
Yep.
coming from like Pennsylvania, New Jersey. You just write down 15 and hit. As I'm looking at the license plates in our parking lot, I'm like, wow, this is slam dunk. I mean, this isn't even reliant on just the Percival market. This is expanded out to an entire region. Um, and I felt like ice cream was one of those that people will travel for sure. Um, I'm looking around, and there was a place called Grudo's. It's still there in Percival. That's soft serve. They have that. Some people really like soft serve. Um, I think it's great. I don't offer it, at my shop, just as a
Mm-hmm.
respect for them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get in there and just compete, like, uh, come in there and do something exactly like they're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
and in my market research, desserts have a lot of, they're very trendy. Like, frozen yogurt will be there. They have for 5 years, and then they'll go down, and something else will be. Um, but old fashioned, just regular hard hand dipped ice cream is
Mm-hmm.
one that kind of stays steady. It's always popular, and it doesn't have a lot of market fluctuation. So I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. So my wife Kirsten, there, who's in the picture with me, we went down to Florida and went to ice cream school and worked in a shop for 7 days with the guy that taught us how to make ice cream. And then we worked in his shop, and it was funny because he's like an old hippie. He's not a lot of
Mhm.
business experience. So
Mhm.
like as he's teaching me how to do ice cream, I'm teaching him like some financial stuff and like some security things that he should be doing to protect his business. And he's like, "Oh, it's a good idea," you know. And I was contributing to the class, and so people were taking notes on some of the things that I was saying because I at that point I had already had 7 or 8 years of restaurant experience. So
Mhm.
that was a fun class and a fun time. Um, Making ice cream is very easy. Uh, a lot of people don't even notice, but most of the places you go into are buy Hershey's or buy,
Mhm.
another brand, and then they have those flavors, and that's what they're serving. We make all of our own ice creams in house, so we can do. I mean, we have a great banana pudding ice cream, a carrot cake ice cream. And we have tons and tons of different flavors, and it's really just whatever we can think up. So we'll put out on our social media some, contests and ask for suggestions, and we'll pick one that we really, really like, and we'll feature that flavor for a couple weeks and rinse and repeat and do it again, and it's cool. And ice cream is really really good, and that social interaction with our customer base has been awesome. I mean, there are some diehard people out there that love ice cream, so that shop is still on an upward trajectory and still growing. And if I were had the passion to start more shops, ice cream's that's a very easy and repeatable one to be able to put in multiple locations. But no more large barbecue restaurants for me. That's been enough. Um, but I was also really early on the bourbon, uh, craze. I've been collecting
Mhm.
bourbons for over a decade now,
Yep.
and I think when I started Monks, I had a little teeny shelf, and now we have over 200 bourbons, including a lot of collector things that you're not going to find anywhere else. And that I think really drove a ton of business to us as well, because bourbon has gotten extremely popular. People that I never thought would even be drinking bourbon, like say 5 years ago, are bringing bottles to my house and drinking it with me and asking for thoughts and all that stuff. I mean, everybody's drinking bourbon now, um, and so we were way out ahead of that. So I mean,
Yep.
we've got a lot of notoriety in the region, as well, just as a legit bourbon bar, and that's also been very good to us.
Brian, it's actually funny. I think it's either you're my friendship or we're just mind melding at this point. But you kind of lead me to the next one I wanted to ask you.
Well,
Bourbon
that's my
and
radio
barbecue.
experience.
That's right. Bourbon and barbecue help lead to another kind of fortuitous thing in your life. Your association with Chad Dukes, the very talented DC area radio host and podcaster, I believe just kind of happened up to your shop one day and was really impressed with the bourbon, the barbecue, kind of struck up a friendship there, and you kind of have gotten involved in each other's businesses. You ended up sponsoring his podcast.
Yeah,
He's had you kind of as a member of his rogues gallery on his different shows.
yeah.
What's how fun has that been for you, and how has that helped your brand, your association with Chad?
Well, it's a very interesting case study. Like, you can sponsor a podcast, you can sponsor a business, you can advertise, and you can do all sorts of things. Um, but as a sponsor, to be able to be involved in the actual content, oh my gosh, it has been amazing. And Chad's been very patient with me as I learn, certain things about broadcasting, and continues to be patient with me
Mhm.
because, I'm still building experience doing it. But yeah, man, he came in and loved the barbecue. I don't even think he was drinking bourbon when we first met, but he loves it now, a big supporter of my products and things. And um, yeah, we got to be good friends, and I got to go on the show, and the show's a lot of fun. Like, it is. Well, there's a lot of different kind of shows within his show. There's a movie show where
Mhm.
they watch a lot of movies, the Fortress Film Society, where they watch movies, and they review them and talk with them, and there's a lot of discussion. That's a show. We have the show that I'm on is on uh, we record on Tuesday nights, and that's us just talking about current events, talking about whatever, and just having some beers and having having a great time, and that's entertaining. Chad's built up a following over the years, from his 106.7 fan days and things like that, hosting shows. Just an awesome friendship, awesome guy, an awesome asset for my businesses, because with his following, he's built up such a rabid following that it is a very engaged, audience. And I've gotten to know all of them, all of the guys that have been long-term and all that stuff that he's built throughout the years. And they are just rabid supporters of mine. And I appreciate every single one of them. It is a unique sponsorship opportunity that has kind of evolved into, I co-host some shows with him and just embedded in the content, which you can't pay for that. You can't pay enough for that. So it's a very cool and unique like advertising opportunity for my businesses.
Brian, it's funny. I feel like Duke's helped kind of launch you a little bit further on in your business. Funny enough, something that made a lot of businesses crumble made your business thrive a little bit. The pandemic hit in 2020, and so many businesses struggled with it. And I remember kind of talking to you because you're my friend, and I was worried. I said, he's built such a great thing there. And you were like, you know what, dude, honestly, we're doing pretty good. And then you'd be like, the next time I talk to you, we're actually doing really good right now. Yeah. How was your business not only able to survive the pandemic, but thrive during it?
Yeah. So, man, the first week when all that was new was very scary, and I'm like, I'm going to lose the business. Like we're going to have to, the government's going to make us shutter the doors. Like what's going on? Everything's panning out. The range of outcomes on all of that was wide. There was a lot of scenarios that could have played out that could have shut our doors, so I kind of took a look at what was going on, and we were allowed to do takeout, and delivery. I didn't lay people off, but I was like, hey, we got to cut back here. It was me and like 3 people, until we figured out where this was going. And then I slowly started to add staff back. So we were running not only barbecue, but ice cream as well. I bought a little cooler that's like a freezer, and I had it in the truck. And I personally was delivering food to people, in my truck, which got 8 miles to the gallon, which
not great.
But whatever, you're doing what you have to do, And so barbecue's one of those things that travels well. Put potato salad and some pulled pork in a to-go container, and that travels really well. 30 minutes out on a delivery is fine. It's not like fine dining that has like French fries. As soon as you put those in a container, they steam and they sog up. Fine dining took a big hit because it was really difficult for them to do to go, because those are more delicate, kind of foods. But we were running food everywhere. Our numbers were good, and I started adding staff back. The restaurant became a call center where I had all of our bartenders and people just set up at a table with a phone. I called Comcast and got like 12 phone lines and like the whole like office pool kind of deal to put people on hold. And then we started to organize, we adapted within a week to a delivery and takeout model. And so we started doing like deliveries to neighborhoods where we would take, like on a Friday night, hey, we're coming to your neighborhood here, pre-order, so we knew what we were looking at. Which ended up being really, really awesome. But the first one, the first one was a complete unmitigated disaster. And I mean, people's food was like 3 hours late. I remember my last one was to a home with another restaurateur, and I didn't know it at the time. And I'm delivering late to her house. I tripped up her stairs because I panicked and trying to rush. I fall down. Fortunately, the food was okay, but my knee was all scraped up and whatever. And I was Huber, I was a freaking mess, just stressed and worried and just everything. And so I have like a 30-minute conversation with her. I'm apologizing up and down. She's like, don't worry about it. I'm in the business. I know what you're going through. This is, it's hard and scary and all that. And she calmed me down, had a great conversation. And that was outside of Leesburg, off the Woods Road, that neighborhood, newer neighborhood back there. And I cried in my truck all the way back to Percival, racked with worry and stress and not knowing where any of this is going. And this was a horrible failure. And we got back, and man, I had a couple employees that and they're still with me. Always show appreciation for getting me organized and through all of that. They just took the bull by the horns, organized it. The next one we did, we learned so much from that first neighborhood delivery that we were doing them like flawlessly from that point forward, and it really helped. I mean, I've never, to see my staff rally around the business like that and just make it happen was truly awesome. I started bringing in meals, so at the end of the night, once it's all done, we could sit together and have some beers and eat and get to know it. I mean, that built camaraderie through that entire thing. It built loyalty. We all got to be good friends, which is something I said earlier, hard to do, but then you're taking what, you just, all bets are off then. You're just trying to survive, we finished that year plus 1% during
Wow.
COVID. And so a lot of businesses were taking heavy cuts, down 60%, down 80%, we were able to adapt and thrive, within it and actually show, I mean, it's not much growth, but to show any growth over that was impressive. So I'm extremely loyal to those staffers that are still with me that saw me through that. That was awesome. It was incredibly hard work, but it was awesome.
1 point win, still a win.
Yeah,
Brian,
right.
you talk about your business and building it at Monk's. Eventually, during the pandemic, you take on another challenge, Flying Ace Brewery and Distillery, a little bit up the road from your location in Percival, up the Point of Rocks, Taylorstown area in Loudoun County. Was there apprehension about getting involved in that, or because you had done it kind of on a smaller basis, did you feel comfortable saying, hey, this is a challenge I can handle?
Yeah, so I was talking with a couple friends about doing that, and I love bourbon. I've been collecting for years, and I was like, the opportunity to have your own label, and distribute. Right now, it's distributed in Virginia ABC under the label American Ace. I mean, that was awesome, and we have a satellite Monk's out there. It's a brewery and a distillery, and there's a Monk's barbecue out there with not the full menu, but damn near close to it that we have in Percival. But just taking that challenge on was exciting. It's been pretty awesome. It's been a different, my restaurant experience is just that it's in a restaurant. Well, a brewery and distillery is a whole other deal, and we're in a rural area outside of Lovettsville. So it's really difficult to drum up a lot of business during the week, but your Saturdays and Sundays, your weekends are just going gangbusters. And we're trying to get more and more and more ABC stores and get out of state and all that stuff with our products. But man, it's a really cool. I open up that warehouse in the morning. There's like 1,000 barrels, sitting in there aging of our own product. We started out sourcing because it's really difficult to sell an unaged bourbon. You're basically selling moonshine if you decide to go that route and not buy from another source and bottle and blend your own.
Your West Virginia roots.
Yeah. That and gambling. Yeah. But it's been an awesome experience, continues to be an awesome experience. And in that kind of business, that is a long play. Yep. We won't have, I mean, we're 3 years in on our own bourbon that we're distilling. We'll release it around 5 years if it's ready, 6 years if it's ready, 7 years if it's ready. So it just depends on, we continue to sample it and see what we have. And we're not going to put it out until we're comfortable with it. But I mean, that is a 10 to 20 year, maturity cycle before that business is fully mature, where the restaurant probably take half that time. So it's cool. It's a business that I really, really like, and it's one of my other passions. So love bourbon, barbecue, all the ice cream. So that's where all my medications, the source of all of that comes from. So
I tell you what, Brian, one of your passions that I think might help with your health is your love of fishing. You were a guy that
Yeah.
loved fishing. We were in high school. You would go out on dock slips on the Potomac late at night to go out and fish with guys. And you've kind of gotten deeper into that. Your cousin Randy, he's a big time fisherman. I know down in North Carolina, you guys have done a lot of fishing together, some deep sea fishing. You're going to go out today and do some more fishing. Why is fishing
Yeah.
one of your favorite hobbies?
Well, we used to have a family vacation back in the day that involved 1 week of camping at the Chesapeake Bay, and it was crabbing, it was fishing, you know, all that stuff, and no air conditioning. You're just sleeping on the ground in a tent and all that. And I loved every bit of it. My cousin, who you mentioned, Randy, our families would vacation together, so we both kind of shared that passion. It's tied to memories, you know, of my grandparents, of simpler times, of you know, things where I didn't have to worry about. You know, I was a little like blonde haired kid with a long rat tail in like 1988, you know, running around crabbing and fishing in the sun. You know, it was in the water. It was awesome.
Yep.
But as you expand, you know, you mentioned high school, like catfishing, like that's all very easy. That's put some chicken livers on a hook and wait and sit back and wait for something to bite. But fishing, there's a ton of different facets to it. It can be really challenging. You go 50 miles offshore. The rigs that you're using, the way you tie them, the all of it. There's a ton of detail and a ton of learning. Like it challenges you mentally. There's some physical parts of it that challenge you too. When you hook up with a 60-pound tuna and you're trying to reel them in, you know, it's fun. It's great exercise, you know, for the brain and the body. And you know, not only do I listen to a lot of podcasts during the day, a lot of them are fishing podcasts, just because different perspectives, different you know, methods used in different regions, and you can learn from all of that, you know. And I research and I just take in a lot of information and sift through things that I want to try. And that's how you learn. It's a lot of trial and error, you know. Fishing can be easy when you're on them and extremely difficult when you're not, you know. This was a trip just the other day. That's a yellowfin tuna out of Oregon Inlet. Great, you know, we're 50 miles out.
Yep.
The water, I wouldn't say was rough, but it wasn't calm either. You know, so that's something you got to get used to, getting out. But yeah, man. So we have a home that we come down here to in North Carolina. We're just outside of Hatteras, and I've got a center console, a 25-foot center console that we go in and out of Hatteras Inlet, and we fish the sound and all that. And so I am learning to get that boat, you know, 30 miles out in the Gulf Stream and catch fish like that on my own. That's with a charter boat that I caught those. Yeah, and it is just, man, it scratches that itch, that research, you know, deep dive, you know, I like to learn kind of itch, but it's also, it's good for you. You know, I'm starting to learn, the further out you go and the bigger the fish are, your physical conditioning starts to become important, you know.
Yep.
So when I get home, I'm going to be picking that physical activity level up a little bit.
You also have kind of converted one of your passions into a business, Money Monk Fishing. I know a lot of the pictures in social media, but you're also making some fishing poles and those type of things. Again, where did that idea come from?
Well, so I'm surf fishing on the beaches in North Carolina, and I'm looking, all the rods are like black or white or whatever. And it's like, they're cool rods, but they're very boring, you know, and I like a little flash, you know. So I started to research, you know, what it would take to start building your own. And there's some online courses. So I decided to try one. And that has kind of blossomed into, I think I'm on my 18th rod, you know, all the color combos. You actually, it's kind of like sewing. It's thread that you put on there. If you look at it and you think it's painted, but it's not. You put them, you put the rod in like a lathe, you know, and it spins. And you have like a foot control, or you can control it with your hand, but you're wrapping thread around that, and then you're epoxying it and putting your guides on, all highly customizable, whatever guides you want to use, whatever heavy rod. The rods run the gamut between light, heavy, stiff, bendy. You know, I've got one that I swear it's like throwing a spaghetti noodle. It is so bendy. It's cool. But you fish enough, you start to pick up on all these little intricacies, and then you start to want your own kinds of things for certain situations. So um, I actually haven't sold a rod yet on that, so I wouldn't call it a business. I'm not sure I want to turn it into a business, you know. I don't I don't want any more things to be running me, you know. I want to
Got it.
run at my own pace, you know. But in my retirement, you know, one of these days, that would be something I could do, you know, and do it at my own pace. But it's a very, very cool hobby.
Brian, last one for you, and I don't want you to give up any ideas on some other businesses that could be brewing in your brain, but if you had some advice, I know you gave out some earlier in the show, but advice to folks who want to start their own business, what would it be?
Oh, okay. Well, let's go back to the friends thing. That is a big one. You know, you have to maintain, and it's threading a needle. Like you can't be so insensitive to people or and standoffish, like, hey, I don't want to be friends. That's not what I'm talking about, you know. But you have to have maintain that ability to course correct something if you know, if you need to. So no matter how close you get with someone, you have to still maintain that ability to pull them into the office and tell them what they're doing wrong. There's some methods to that. One called the compliment sandwich, where you give them a compliment, then you tell them what they work on, and then you finish with the compliment. That's a nice way to do it, you know. But you have to be able to get rid of someone if you have to, you know. It's a sitting here thinking about it, you're like, oh, I think I could do that. When you're face to face with someone, it's hard, and that's a skill that you develop. The first couple times, you it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. You just have to do it. But then you start to get more comfortable maintaining that line and doing that. That is the biggest by far challenge for me. And I think everybody will have their challenges, whether it's the mathematics behind it, you know, the quality, you know, but maintaining food quality or quality in your product. But for me, man, it's the relationship side that's the most difficult. So, you know, find that line and stick to it.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Remember, you can
Very
find
welcome.
out about more of the things that Brian's doing on all his social media: Monk's Barbecue, Tip Cow Creamery, also Flying Ace Distillery and Brewery. And also, if you want to follow Monk's fishing exploits, Money Monk Fishing. Brian, again, you're such a good friend. Thank you for doing this. I very much appreciate you being on Huber and Friends.
Thanks, man. Let me know when you want me back.